guys have a pile that looks like this somewhere? All the leftover bits and pieces from previous projects that you need to do something with? Well, let me talk about what I do with my leftover scraps, and I'll share some tips and tricks along the way. So let's get started. Welcome to Crafty Soup. My name is Misty, and today, as you can guess, is a Tidy Tuesday video where we will tackle one topic in our craft rooms and try and tidy it up. And no one system works for everybody, so if you have ideas that you like, please share them in the comments below so that we can all learn from each other and find a system that works for us. Here is my table, and down below the table is my bin of scraps. Now you can see it needs a little bit of attention because I've been neglecting it, but this bin has worked for me quite well for many years. It just needs some tidying up. Let me take you over to my other space and show you a moment what I used to use instead of this bin and give you a sneak peek at something that we'll talk about in the future. All right, here we are across my room, and I have a table set up with these file folder bins. We will talk about this topic a little bit later, and I used to use one of these bins for my scrap, but because that scrap bin is on the floor of a basement, the moisture was a very slight issue, and bigger issue was because I was sliding it in and out all the time, the bottom of the bin was getting chewed up, so I had to move to something sturdier, and while it's not attractive, that plastic crate does the job. Okay, we'll start off with the full overhead view here of my table and my bin, and you can pardon my lap as we're working because you're going to see everything today. First of all, I've been saving these plastic bags to help tidy up some of these scraps, so we'll get to that. Let me show you if I can get something out of here. These are legal size file folders just from the office supply store, and they're relatively inexpensive. And so whenever I can use ordinary supplies instead of specialty craft supplies, I'm going to do that because they're going to be more readily available and they're going to be cheaper. Are they always the perfect solution? No, but that's the compromise that you make when you're storing things. So I am going to pull this one out. I think for sanity's sake, I'm going to pull out one folder and we'll tackle these things a little bit at a time. And I'm not going to do this whole bin on camera because that would take a while. But hopefully you can have some company while you tidy up something in your room. Stuff like this, I know I'm going to need to cut down in order to store it. This was probably some kid's art project or school project of some sort. And so that has been in there for a little while. But let's see if I can get this on camera. Before we get started, I do have a few category things. Let me see if I can tip it. A few category things already set up here. So I have these labels. I'm trying to make sure I'm on film. I have all these labels set up for colors. And originally, that was just for storing solid cardstock colors. And I had pattern papers stored by pattern, so stripes, polka dots, nature elements, stuff like that. But I'm finding that when I reach for scraps, that's not working for me as well. When I reach for new papers, that is definitely a way that I think first. But when I'm reaching for my scraps, I do reach more by color. So I'm going to reorganize this mostly by color, and then I will have a few categories. We'll definitely have a specialty paper category, and probably, I have vellum, I have watercolor paper, trying to think of other specialty papers, so definitely foiled papers. So those will all be specialty. And I'm trying to think of what categories I might want to have left over for pattern papers. Probably seasons. So if something is very holiday specific or season specific, I'll have a special category for that. And we'll see what else I come up with along the way. So let me move this out of the way because that is overwhelming. And we'll work on this. So with some of this stuff that I have on my table, you see that I use some plastic bags, and these aren't bags actually, these are page protectors, again, just from the office supply store. I buy the cheapest ones I can get because they don't need to be super sturdy. They just need to do the job, and really the cheapest ones are sturdy enough for what I need to do. So into bags like this, I will do a couple of different things. All of these papers are from the same paper collection. So that is one way to store things. And I think that might be one of my specialty categories is some of the paper collections that I still want to keep together, even though they're scraps. The other thing about pattern papers, especially, is what side do you pay attention to? And for me, it just comes down to first gut reaction of what side I think I'll use the most. So green is probably that one. Wood grain is always my thing, so wood grain is going to be that one. And let's see, plaid and navy. I'm really in a navy mood lately, so I'll keep that one as navy. That might change, and at some point, if something changes, I can shift these patterns over somewhere else. Words and plaid, I like the words better, so I'll put that there. So now I'm just going to start making piles. The other thing about saving scraps is how big of a scrap do you save? Now this one has been on the floor, and I think I've rolled over it with my rolly chair a couple of times. So that one is going in the recycling. And these are the little bins that I keep on my desk. As you can see, this is full, and this is pretty much the size that I will limit myself to when I'm recycling. If things are bigger like this, especially if they have an icon that can be cut out, I will either donate it, which I believe, yes, I talked about the donations that I do in my last Tidy Tuesday video. So if you want to catch more of that, I'll link you up with the specific timestamp so that you can just catch that part. So I will save anything of this size. Now, this size, what do you do? Because this is a specialty paper, I don't think it's going to pick up on camera very well, but it has a glimmeriness to this paper. I guess it's showing up a little bit. So I'm going to save this in that specialty paper category, and I might subcategorize them with a baggie into colors within that category, but probably not because I don't have a lot of this kind of specialty paper. So I'll probably just keep one baggie of all of the glimmery paper so that I can have that set aside. So what else have we got here in terms of size? That's going to be one of my first things. White paper I use constantly, so that will stay. See, most of the things that I set aside are still big enough to be usable. Okay, this one is pretty cut apart. It's dirty. It's been used as scratch a little bit. So actually what I'm going to do is I will recycle that part. I'll probably just work around that when I'm die cutting or something in the future, and that can stay. Now this was specialty paper from that same collection, so I'm going to tuck that in there. What about something like this? Now this is multicolored. It's also very icon heavy, so that is one of the things that I'm thinking about saving in a special file and not putting in colors. So for me, this one is going to go in icons, and I'll probably have one for seasons and one for other icons. Now, I do really like the map side, and in the past I used a lot of cameras, but I'm feeling less focused on camera icons. So you know what? I'm going to put this on the map side, and I'm going to store it with blue. So that is that. But in terms of icons, you can decide what you want to do. And then in terms of multicolor icons, what do you do? I think for me, I would just set up a bin that's multicolored. And then if I need something that has more colors in it, or if I'm looking for a really specific color, I could possibly use just a portion. Like this is multicolored, so maybe I could just use a portion. So that's really up to you. How do you think about when you want to grab something? What do you go looking for? Do you look for patterns? Do you look for icons? Those kinds of things. So back to that. That is blue. This is blue. And now that I'm doing this, I just put a piece of cardstock right on top of pattern paper. And I do not do the same things with cardstock that I do with pattern paper. So I may want to go ahead and redo, because I had my patterns sorted by pattern before. I may want to redo those labeled tabs and have pattern papers by color and cardstock by color as well, because I do think about pattern papers differently than I think about cardstocks. So I think that is a longer term project that I will work on. But for now, let's keep sorting. I am going to separate out solid cardstock. So let's start a rainbow over here. Red, I'll put black and white on the bottom, which there was white over here. So we'll do red, orange, yellow, and just go through the rainbow. Let's set up a space where we can do that. Here's pink cardstock, which I will put next to red. Here's gray, which can go in between black and white. Here's another gray. Let's see. Okay, very subtle prints. Does that go? I mean, can you even see it? It's a polka dot print. Does this go in pattern papers, or does this go in cardstock? And just making a decision, I'll put it in cardstock. How's that? Sometimes you just have to pick and do it, and then in the future, if you don't like it there, move it somewhere else. This is gray. Again, this is a more noticeable print, so I'm going to put this one in prints. Here's more blue. I guess I didn't look at the other side. Okay, here's some seasonal, and I'm probably more likely to use this side for seasonal. Oh, I do have labels on these. These are from past SCT sampler kits. So I am going to, this is a Bic Intensity Fine Point Permanent Marker. It's like a Sharpie. It just has, I like the points on these. So I'm going to say seasons on this. Let's just keep chugging. Okay. This is too small, I think, for me to save, so I'm going to put that in donation because kids can have fun with that. This one is a very awkward shape. Oh, and it's got tickets on the other side. This is Pink Fresh. You know what I actually might do with this is I'm going to cut this apart into elements, and I will store this in my embellishment bins. And I'll probably just tear that part off, and I'll keep a strip because I can use strips easily. Oh, this paper. Would I use a little bit of floral or a little bit, I think I like the florals. And I think I will put that into a category because florals tend to be a big thing. Okay, that piece is too small. Okay, here we go again with the pattern versus solids. I think the pattern is enough. And actually, I like the striped side a little bit better. So that's definitely going to go in a gray pattern. Okay, icons. I'm going to put this in icons. So florals might end up going in with general icons, or because they are their own icon, or I might separate out the two. So I'm going to stick those things in icons. This is text, and I'm going to start a text category because I do like text papers. What have we got in here? Pardon the noises from my chair as I am not a good sitter. I wiggle a lot, so you're going to hear my chair noises. Okay, these are some more tags. I'm not going to cut these apart on camera because you get the idea. I'm going to put those over there with the other tags that I've already cut. Let's see. Hopefully we're not running out of time with my record limit. We're doing okay so far. All right, so that one is easy for me. It is going to go in text, and to make it easier to store, I'm going to go ahead and cut it apart. And of course, in the future, I'm going to want a piece that is just slightly bigger than what I cut, but that is always a part of life. Now, if you're at home and you're trying to do something like this, sit on the floor. You don't have to film, so you don't have to worry about fitting everything on a camera. So here, red, orange, yellow. Oh, just pick a side. Let's go for yellow. So let's see. Are these worth saving? I think I'm going to let these go into the kid bin, and the kids can. I really liked this paper, and I had fun playing with it, but let it go. Let it go. You don't have to keep everything. That will go in a donation. Okay, paper strips. I do save a lot of paper strips. And if you haven't seen my video on what you can do with these branding strips, I have a video that talks about lots of different ideas for making embellishments and things, and different layout formats that you can use paper strips with. So that will go in paper strips. I'll just set it off to the side for now. stripes. I like stripes. So do I start? I know I've got this one as stripes. See, this is why I put things into some categories. Nope, I'm going to put it with colors. It's going to go in black. And I now have black and white and gray. This is a weird shape, so I'm just going to recycle that one. This one, ooh, I like that side. I'm going to put you in blue. And it's almost a banner shape already, so that could just become a quick banner. Wood grain. I'm going to let this one go. Kids, text can stay. Ooh, black and white text or gray text. I'm just going to put it in text. I will keep a text pile. So if I'm keeping a text as not a color pile, I will go ahead and move that one into, nope, I need another bag. Well, I don't need another bag because it will get its own folder. So I think I put, I did just write seasons. Let's go ahead and write seasons, fall. I don't know if I really need to get, see, I find that if I have too much categorization with my storage system, that I don't want to put things away because it's one more thing to look for to make sure it's in the right place. So if I just have one folder as seasons and throw everything in there, that's easier to put away than one folder and now I've got to look for a baggie that's the right season. So this is probably too much categorization for me. And so that's why I'm doing these chats live so that you can hear what I'm thinking about. And that is one of the things that has not worked for me in the past is too much categorization, too specific categorization. So if I keep it more general, it works better. Here's another season, so that I'm just going to tuck it in there. I don't need to put it in the baggie at this point. Okay, now we've got multicolored stripes or multicolored. I'm just going to put it in multicolored. This is so cute. I remember using this paper. So dang cute. This must be Chamel. I'm pretty sure this is a Chamel paper. I like both of these sides. Very hard to choose because this is so different than anything else out there. There's other book prints out there. I think I'm going to put that in icons on that side. And pink for sure, or multicolored stripes. You know, I am more likely to use this side, so I'm going to keep this one in multicolored. Okay, we are already at the 24-minute mark, so I think I will go ahead and finish this stuff off camera, and then I will come back in a little while and give you a look at what my final file looks like when I'm done. Okay, here is my bin. Doesn't it look better? Look at all this room. Okay, now to say I've got a lot of room is to be a little dishonest because this is a box full of stuff that needs sorted. So this is just, I can get it on camera. This is just a box that I threw everything into, and this is one of my common tidying methods. Throw it all in a box and take a little bit out at a time to work on. So to get to this point, took me about an hour, I guess. And then with that box down there, I can take out 5-minute, 10-minute, 15-minute chunks at a time and continue with this process. So in here, this is where I need to redo my labels, but this one is vellum. So I will go ahead and put the tag back in place and I'll just make a new label for it. This one is wood grain. So you can see I have wood grain papers in here. It gets its own category because I'm a wood grain girl, so that one gets its own category. This one is icons, and I have various stuff in here. I may subdivide this later, or I may not. These are my metallics. See, I cut that one down, but it would fit in there. And then my collections. And, oh, what's this one? Another empty one? Another empty one. So here is what I did with all of the colors. And this does need some more tidying because as you can see, there's a lot of stuff in here. So I did divide everything up by colors, but instead of keeping separate files for pattern papers and separate files for cardstock, I put in a divider. So that's what these are, chipboard pieces that come in scrapbook paper shipments to keep them from bending in the mail, and I saved these. I had some purchased chipboards for when I was doing some bookbinding stuff, which didn't last very long. So I'm using these as dividers. I am going to take my tabs and I'm going to put them on the top here because when you have 12 by 12 papers, you can't see these tabs very well. So I'm going to probably just staple these tabs. Okay, stapling did not work well through chipboard. The staples are smushed. So I will probably do some double-sided sticky tape and fix those. But for now, that is my divider between solid cardstock and pattern papers. So that is it. Having this room allows me to flip to whatever color I need, have room to open and close it, and then I can slide it back into place to kind of keep things tidy. And you can see right now I have a lot of room, so I will sort through that box. So hopefully I will come back with you with an update at some point saying that I have finished that big old cardboard box and that this tidy project is complete. Hopefully you got the idea of how I categorize things, how I sort things, and then in the end, all of these file folders will have labels on them, and then they will hang in that bin and be much more tidy and manageable, and I can find what I'm looking for quickly. All right, that is it for this time. Do go ahead and leave me a comment if you have great ideas that work for you, because they might work for somebody else who's watching and reading the comments. So let's start a conversation. Until next time, have an artful day.